After following Gu Yixuan for 8 years, he abandoned me casually. He turned around and found a younger model. What he didn't know was that I was pregnant. I went to find him, but I was humiliated by him and the young model. You, an old woman, still want Mr. Gu's reputation? Look in the mirror, sister. Jiang Yin, I've been tired of playing with you for a long time. Get out of here when you know me. Don't make me look ugly. I didn't have mercy anymore. I went straight to have an abortion and devoted myself to a new life. Until I found a man who really loved me, got married and had a child. Gu Yixuan came to the door like crazy. 1. After I got pregnant, I wanted to tell my boyfriend Gu Yixuan the good news as soon as possible. But when I arrived at his bar, a woman was sitting on his lap. The two of them clued together ambiguously and whispered. Gu Yixuan's brother wanted to stop me. Sister-in-law, don't get me wrong. I pushed him away and walked to Gu Yixuan. I thought he would feel guilty when he saw me, but he frowned impatiently. What are you doing here? The woman on Gu Yixuan's body also looked at me with disdain, as if she was looking at a clown. Who is he? Gu Yixuan became even more impatient. What does it have to do with you? It was quite lively just now. Get out of here and don't spoil everyone's fun. I looked at Gu Yixuan indisbelievably. Am I not your girlfriend? Gu Yixuan sneered. Do you deserve to be my girlfriend? Do you have to make it so clear? I've just been raising you these years. And now I'm tired of playing. It's that simple. I was like being struck by lightning, and the report sheet in my hand was clenched by me. Gu Yixuan's young model stood up, tapped my shoulder with his finger. Sister, you didn't think of yourself as Mrs. Gu when you came here with such a great interest. The most important thing to be a human being is to be interesting. You don't even look at yourself in the mirror. You look like a female ghost. After she finished speaking, everyone in the card couldn't help laughing. I know what she means. In order to let Gu Yixuan know that I was pregnant as soon as possible, I rushed from the hospital in the heavy rain. It should be a mess at this moment. I have been with Gu Yixuan since I was in college. At that time, he never confessed to me, but only fixed money to my bank card every month. I only thought that he was generous to his girlfriend, so I never doubted her. But now it seems that it's just a maintenance fee. I'm just one of his lovers, but I've been deceiving myself for many years. Seeing that I was standing still, Gu Yixuan became even more irritable. Jiang Yin, what are you still doing here? Or don't you understand what I just said? I've been tired of playing with you for a long time. Get out of here now. Don't make me look so ugly. The humiliation is like lightning falling on me, making me late. I didn't have the strength to refute him, so I had to turn around and leave. Behind him, there was a sound of several people watching the excitement. Mr. Gu, you are too merciless. Besides, Jiang Yin has followed you for 8 years. Don't you have any feelings? Gu Yixuan's voice was full of care. What kind of feelings? It's just a woman. He suddenly smiled mockingly. If you don't believe me, let's bet. In less than 5 days, this woman will come back and beg me not to want her. 2. Gu Yixuan thought that I would still ask him for peace as before. After all, I used to love her so much. Unfortunately, he was obviously wrong. I won't allow him to hurt me again and again. I went directly to the hospital to make an appointment for an abortion and had an operation 3 days later. Although I have planned to leave him completely, I can't leave now, because the accounts between us have not been settled yet. Over the years, the money he gave me has been in a bank account and has never been touched. Except for the year before last when my mother was sick, I was in a hurry to transfer 100,000 yuan from this card. When I get the money together, I'm going to return it to him together. Only in this way can we walk cleanly. I returned to my home with Gu Yixuan. I used to think that we would get married and have children here. But now it seems that I'm obviously wrong. I packed up all my things and took them to the hotel. I'm going to live in the hotel during this period, as far away as Gu Yixuan as I can. But who knew that he still wanted to trouble me? Just as I was moving things, Gu Yixuan and the young model came unexpectedly. Young model Li Xiaoya carried a suitcase, as if she was going to move into this house in a dignified place. Seeing me, she said sarcastically, "Some people are really shameless. They let me get out and still linger here. Do you think that Mr. Gu will pity you for letting you continue to live when he sees you like this?" I looked at Gu Yixuan. He had no expression, obviously acquiescing to the woman's words. I couldn't help sneering. "I'm sorry, I'm not interested in continuing to live here. It's your business if you are willing to jump into the fire pit, and it has nothing to do with me. In addition," I looked at Gu Yixuan. "This is just a man I played with. I don't know why you are fighting here. This will only make you look cheap. If you want to tell me directly, I'll send you." Gu Yixuan frowned and said, "Jiang Yin, did I give you face? Who allowed you to talk like that? What freedom of speech in our country? I can say whatever I want. Is it possible that you still live in the Qing dynasty? You have to control what I say." You. Gu Yixuan looked at me incredulously, as if he didn't expect that the woman who used to follow him merely turned out like this at this moment. Of course, Li Xiaoya was not willing to show weakness. Jiang Yin, make it clear that it was Mr. Gu who dumped you. You take yourself too seriously. I rolled my eyes. Who talked to you? Why are you so in debt? I live in the house where I have lived for 8 years, using the second-hand man I have used. If I were you, I wouldn't. It's nice to open your mouth. I'm afraid that others will think I'm cheap. Get down. Do you think you're so brilliant? Li Xiaoya couldn't tell me. She turned her head and looked at Gu Yixuan, who was very wronged. Mr. Gu, I've been wronged. Gu Yixuan frowned and said, then you won't shut up? It's not good to find it with her. Li Xiaoya shut up completely. Maybe she hasn't recognized the reality yet. That is, Gu Yixuan came to her not because he liked her, but because he just went out with a physiological impulse. But she mistook this kind of behavior for love so much so that she was arrogant. And it took me 8 years to understand this truth. I packed up my things and was ready to leave. When passing by the two of them, something in the bag fell off. I was about to turn around to pick it up, but I found that Gu Yixuan had been the first to pick it up. And that thing is my pregnancy test stick. 3. Before I went to the hospital for a checkup, I took a test by myself. So I didn't lose things and threw them in my bag casually. Gu Yixuan looked at that thing and frowned. Jiang Yin, what is this? As a woman, Li Xiaoya naturally saw it at a glance, and suddenly alarmed. He glared at me viciously, as if to warn me not to say it. I came forward and snatched Gu Yixuan's hand. What does the cold virus test have to do with you? Fortunately, Gu Yixuan didn't notice it and snorted coldly. Then take all your things away and get out of this house. You are very annoying, do you know? I ignored him and turned around and left. When I returned to the hotel, I was relieved. I touched the child in my stomach and apologized softly. I can't be your mother in my life. I'm so sorry. If you have a chance in the future, I hope you can go back to your mother's belly. I couldn't help but shed tears, which I quickly wiped them off. Now is not the time to cry. I contacted the leader of the former TV station. He contacted me some time ago and asked me if I could take on private work, but because Gu Yixuan did not allow it, I refused. After graduating from the broadcasting and hosting major, I joined this TV station. It was also because Gu Yixuan didn't like me to show my face outside, so I resigned without hesitation. The former leader was very good to me. When he heard that I was in need of money urgently, he quickly introduced me to the opening host of a bar. I went there early in the evening to get ready, put on makeup, changed into an evening dress and then went on stage. Unfortunately, the light in the bar was so bright that I saw Gu Yixuan sitting under the stage at a glance. And the woman beside him has changed another one. Seeing me, Gu Yixuan frowned. I pretended not to see him and still completed my hosting task. During the halftime break, I went under the stage to drink some water, but was pulled to the corner by Gu Yixuan. He scolded me in the face. I said, I don't like you to come out and show your face. Why? Are you happy to show your thighs to those men? If you want me to forgive you, don't do this way. I'm dirty. I couldn't help frowning when I heard it. It's not that you're sick. Who begged you? Why didn't I find that Gu Yixuan was so sentimental before? I even thought that I was doing this to ask him for forgiveness. So funny. Now it's Gu Yixuan who kneels down and begs me for forgiveness. I won't agree. I'm here to make money. If I knew you were here, I wouldn't come back. Do you understand? Please forgive me. What's wrong with me? Fault, I shouldn't have disturbed you when you were picking up girls? Or do I have no new tricks which makes you tired of me? Gu Yixuan, you have to show your face. After saying that, I drank some water, and ignored Gu Yixuan's black face and went on the stage. The opening ceremony has not been presided over yet. I can't be ruined by Gu Yixuan alone. After the host's speech, it is time for the audience to communicate. I asked, which audience is willing to interact on stage? At this moment, Gu Yixuan actually came on stage. I'll interact. He stared at me. I heard that you were taken care of before. I'll give you money now. Will you come upstairs and sleep with me? With that, he took out money from his pocket and threw it at me one by one. You are also raised for money. Now I'll give you money, okay? 4. I clenched my fists fiercely, as if my mouth was being slapped in public. Gu Yixuan knew that I was the most self-respecting person, so he actually humiliated me in public. I wasn't taken care of. I thought I had been in love with that person for 8 years. I tried my best to squeeze out this sentence. Gu Yixuan sneered and said, do you deserve to fall in love? The money you earn every month is the maintenance fee. Didn't you take it with peace of mind? I received it, but I have never used it. The eyes of the audience under the stage looked at me like Ling Qi, and I felt that my dignity was about to disintegrate on the stage. Just then a man came to the stage. Brother, if you want to pursue this girl, show respect. It's really disgusting now. The man on the stage was wearing sportswear, but he still couldn't hide the nobility on his body. It's like coming here for a walk after morning exercise. The man stood in front of me and stretched out his hand to me. I'm very interested in you and want to add your contact information. Would you like to give it to me? I know that the man is resolving the siege for me. With tears in my eyes, I looked at him gratefully. Of course I do. Gu Yixuan's eyes turned red and he stared at me incredibly. Jiang Yin, do you dare? He still treats me as his property. The man smiled and said, when you are done, let's go down and exchange contact information. After saying that, the man was very gentlemanly and get off the stage. When he came here, Gu Yixuan looked vulgar and rude, making him look like a clown on the stage. I stepped on the money he threw and continued to host. And I didn't pay attention to when Gu Yixuan get down. At the end of the opening ceremony, when I went to the bar owner to check out, I unexpectedly found that the man who had just relieved me was there. I sincerely thanked him. But the man waved his hand. I'm telling the truth. This is my business card. You can contact me in the future. On the low-key and luxurious black business card, 2 words are engraved with gilding. Mu Zheng. I don't know if it was because of Mu Zheng, but the bar owner not only did not fine me for the accident on the stage just now, but also gave me 10,000 yuan more. I got 50,000 yuan in total. If I do it twice more, I can pay off Gu Yixuan's money completely. I just left the bar but was stopped. A group of people blocked me into the dark alley, and Gu Yixuan came out of the darkness. Where are you going? I frowned. Does this have anything to do with you? He sneered. Are you going to hang out with the man just now? How long have you been away from me? You can't wait to find another man. Are you so cheap? After saying that, one of the thitters kicked me hard in the stomach. I suddenly felt a sharp pain, as if something had left my body. I was stunned and subconsciously covered my stomach. My child, my child. Before I could react, a burst of punches and kicks had fallen on me, beating me so that I couldn't move. I clearly felt that the life in my stomach was passing little by little, but I couldn't help it. After a while, Gu Yixuan finally shouted to stop. I was cold under my body, but because the alley was dark, I couldn't see the blood from it. Gu Yixuan looked at me condescendingly. Whether I want you or not, you can't just go out to find a man, you know? I have a cleanliness fetish and don't like others to use what I have used. Next time, why don't you try? 5. The group withdrew from the alley, and I covered my stomach and cried bitterly. Gu Yixuan, you never know what you destroyed with your own hands tonight. After I could move my body for a long time, I limped to the hospital. The doctor was shocked to see that my face was covered in blood and bruised, and rushed me to the emergency room. Finally, under the doctor's examination, the death sentence was announced for the child in my belly. At this moment, I want to cry without tears. I just stared at the few words on the test report. Strangely enough, I had decided to hit her, but I still wanted to cry sadly after she left. It's like I lost the most important thing in my life. After staying in the hospital for a few days, I reluctantly returned to the hotel. When the injury on my body was covered, I took over the host's work again. After taking several jobs in a row, I finally paid off Gu Yixuan's 100,000 yuan. I'm relieved, but I can't call him now. If Gu Yixuan knew that I was going to fly far, I'm afraid he would stop me by all means. This is his character, I know it very well. So I have to transfer the money to him the second before I leave. Only when he can never find me again can the relationship be clearly broken. Soon Gu Yixuan found my hotel, blocked at the door of my room. How about it? Do you know it's wrong? He looked at the wound on my body and asked. I smiled and said, of course I know. My biggest mistake is that I met Gu Yixuan and entangled with him. Unfortunately, Gu Yixuan seemed to have misunderstood and softened his tone. It's good to know you're wrong. I'm just giving you a little lesson this time. Listening to Gu Yixuan's alms-like tone, I was a little disgusted. He said, now that you know it's wrong, move back and stop making trouble. I just wanted to refuse, but I thought that if I gave in at this time, Gu Yixuan would feel that I would not leave. And this is also the safest time for me. So I nodded and laughed sarcastically. Well, but where do I live? Do you live with Li Xiaoya? Gu Yixuan frowned and said, then why don't you just get rid of her? The company still has something to do. I'll go first. After Gu Yixuan left, I packed up and went back to the house again. After ringing the doorbell, Li Xiaoya opened the door with excitement. Mr. Gu, I thought you. The delicate voice gradually dropped after seeing me. Why is it you? I looked at the suitcase in my hand. Can't you see it? Gu Yixuan asked me to come back. Li Xiaoya broke the defense on the spot. No way, get out of here. How can Mr. Gu still want you as a woman? Did you take advantage of the child in your belly? You are really shameless. I used such a despicable means to force him. Mr. Gu has long stopped loving you. If you know each other. Does Gu Yixuan love you if you don't love me? I took out what Gu Yixuan said to me at the door of the hotel and put it to her. Until I heard the sentence. Then don't you just get rid of her? Li Xiaoya's eyes completely lost the color of pride, like a defeated rooster. From beginning to end, Gu Yixuan has never loved you. You are just a toy for him on a whim. 6. Li Xiaoyaman said. On the 8th anniversary of his marriage, he was in pairs with another woman. I went to him, but he asked me to get out of here 39,103 inch. What about you? You are obviously no different from me. Why can you be found by him? It's because you're pregnant, isn't it? I couldn't help laughing. Gu Yixuan doesn't know about the child and I'm not going to tell him. As for why I can come back, it has nothing to do with you. I pointed to the position at the door. Now get out of here. Li Xiaoya may not have thought that when she and Gu Yixuan arrogantly kicked me out of the house, I would come back one day. Her face suddenly turned black and she glared at me viciously. No way. Who knows if you lied to me? I don't believe you. Let Mr. Gu tell me in person. I couldn't help sighing and called Gu Yixuan. After the bell rang for a moment, Gu Yixuan picked up. What's the matter? I'm back in your house, but Li Xiaoya doesn't seem to want to move out. Do you want me to live with her? Gu Yixuan's tone was extremely impatient. Let her get out. Can you still come to me for this little thing? If it really doesn't work, call the security guard and kick her out. It's just a model. I really don't know how high it is. After saying a few words, Li Xiaoya's face turned pale. I gave up my seat at the door sideways, and Li Xiaoya ran out in an instant. As for things, I don't care about them. After all, I don't really plan to live here. It's the same for me whether I have those or not. In the evening, Gu Yixuan returned to the house and saw a satisfied look on my face. I have asked the finance department to transfer you this month's money, and I also gave you a more nutrition fee. I nodded and didn't move. Gu Yixuan didn't seem to notice my coldness and pulled me to the bedroom. I immediately shook off his hand. Gu Yixuan immediately frowned. It's still a mess, isn't it? I looked at him and lifted his clothes. The blue and purple scars on his body had not faded, and it became more and more frightening. Gu Yixuan was obviously shocked. I looked at him calmly. Are you sure? He dodged with some guilty eyes. Why don't you go to the hospital? You are just waiting to threaten me with the current bitter plan, aren't you? You can stay by yourself. He said a word and turned around and left. I put down my clothes with an expressionless face. I should treat such people in the most intuitive way. In the next few days, Gu Yixuan didn't come again, but he transferred money to my account every day, and the note was nutrition fee. It seems that he also felt guilty and didn't dare to show up at all. He just wanted to settle this matter with money. And I didn't say anything and took it silently as usual. Until the evening a week later, he came back again. I'm going on a business trip for a week. Will your injury heal in a week? He gave me a medical and beauty card. Go here for a walk in the next few days and do all the projects that should be done. After saying that, Gu Yixuan turned around and left. I looked at the medical beauty card, which showed a famous private nursing institution. The purpose of the crowd is to attract the lovers of the rich, the lovers of the little three, etc., to please men. Gu Yixuan used to do this and I never felt anything wrong. Now it seems that he just treats me as a toy from the beginning to the end. The only difference between me and Li Xiaoya is that I have been with Gu Yixuan for too long. He is just used to it. 7. When Gu Yixuan went out, I began to pack up and prepare to leave. Gu Yixuan sent me a message before getting on the plane. Get on the plane. When I received the news, I was already at the airport. After I sent him a message and he didn't reply, I was sure that he was already in the sky at this moment. So I transferred back all the money he transferred to me. I also got on the plane. From then on, Gu Yixuan and I have nothing to do with each other. First, I went back to my hometown, discussed with my parents, and changed the name on my ID card. After knowing what Gu Yixuan had done to me, they were naturally angry and afraid, and both hands agreed that I would change my name. Looking at Jiang Yin on the ID card, I suddenly shed 2 tears. The days called Jiang Yin before seemed to go with the wind like a dream, and the days in the future are all brand new days. After changing my name, I went to another city and submitted my resume. I soon applied for a job in the local TV station. Although I am a radio host, I am already very satisfied. I was with Gu Yixuan for 8 years and I left this industry for 8 years. So I'm lucky to find a job. Life is plain and orderly like this. Until I got off work one day, I saw Mu Zheng outside the TV station. He leaned on the car and held a cigarette in his hand. I was shocked and rushed up. I am always grateful to this man. Mr. Mu, do you remember me? It once opened in the Pure Bee Bar in City A. Please relieve the siege for me. Mu Zheng looked up at me with a deep and charming temperament. I'm here to find you. Get in the car and treat you to dinner. I got on the car without hesitation and sat in the co-driver of Mu Zheng's car. On the way, I learned that after Mu Zheng turned on the in-car radio, He seemed to hear my voice. He wanted to confirm whether it was me, so he specially drove to the broadcasting building to wait for me to get off work. I've always wanted to thank you, but I didn't expect you to come here specially. Mu Jing hooked his lips and smiled. Because I have something to explain to you. What I said on the stage that day was true, and not all of them were for you. He frowned slightly. But you seem to have misunderstood. You haven't added my contact information until now. I was stunned and only felt that my face was very hot. Sorry, I'll add it now. With that, I took out Mu Jing's business card from my bag, which I put in my wallet and never lost it. A glimmer of light flashed in Mu Jing's eyes, but he didn't say anything. After I added Mu Jing's contact information, I said thank you solemnly, and offered to invite him to dinner. It happened that Mu Jing had driven the car near the restaurant and smiled at me. Actually, I have the same intention. Mu Zhang and I went to the restaurant for dinner, and we chatted quite happily at the dinner table. Because no matter what topic I bring up, Mu Zhang can pick it up and postpone it in a timely manner. This does not mean that we have the same interests, but that this man has been downwardly compatible with my topic, with his strong inclusiveness. After dinner, I wanted to pay the bill first. But who knew that Mu Zhang took the lead? I was a little upset, but he smiled. Do you remember what I said? I'm really interested in you, so I must treat you to dinner, so that you can invite me back next time. I don't know what to say, but my heart did beat wildly. For a person who has been in a toxic relationship for a long time, it is super lucky to meet such a man. But I still decided to tell the truth to Mu Zhang. Mr. Mu, I just ended an 8-year relationship. In that relationship, I thought I was in love, but who knew that the other party only regarded me as a lover? Maybe I didn't. The way is to soon devote yourself to the next relationship. If I want to start the next relationship, it must be about getting married, so if you don't want to do it in a short time, let's not contact each other. I thought this would scare Mu Zhang away, but who knew that when I went to work the next day? When I came to the audience hotline, I received a call from Mu Zhang. Do you have any stories to share, listener? Mu Zhang's voice slowly flowed out of the headphones with low magnetism, which was particularly catchy. Last night I sent a girl I liked home. She told me not to contact her if I didn't plan to get married. I thought about this question all night, and now I have decided to reply to her. Because she is also listening to this program now, she must know who I am. My palms were sweating, and I listened in disbelievably. I'm sure it's Mu Jing's voice in the headphones. He said, I hope to talk to you about marriage if you are ready. He hung up the phone, but I was still a little out of shape. I read a few words wrong just by saying the slogan. The leader warned me and I just got back to normal. After work at night, Mu Jing was still waiting for me at the door as expected. I decided to pretend to be stupid. Are you here? In fact, you don't have to wait for me. I have a bus after work. Mu Zhang looked at me and said nothing. There seems to be a little grievance in the dark eyes. I suddenly felt infinite guilt in my heart. Such a big handsome man confessed, but I pretended to ignore it. I'm so inhuman. I coughed softly. Do you still want to have dinner? I can treat you. Mu Zhang still looked at me and said nothing. I finally lost the battle and lowered my head. I've been thinking about that matter, but I really don't have the heart now. Hearing me say this, Mu Jing finally nodded and opened the car door for me. He took me to the new restaurant for dinner. On the dinner table, the ringing of my mobile phone suddenly rang. When I picked it up, it turned out to be a strange number. After picking up, Gu Yixuan's angry voice was on the opposite side. Jiang Yin, where did you die? I blocked my phone in WeChat, didn't I? Do you think I can't find you? I know where your parents are. I'll give you 10 hours. Get out of here. Otherwise, just wait for your parents to stay in the hospital. His voice is so loud that it is a little harsh. Hearing my parents, I couldn't help but worry. Gu Yixuan, what else do you want to do? I have paid you back all the money you gave me. I haven't spent a penny. Now we have already paid off. 2 qings? Just dream. As long as I'm alive, you don't have to think about it. I hung up the phone and I wanted to cry but couldn't. I looked at Mu Zhang and said, I'm sorry, I think we'd better not be together. You heard that I have an ex-boyfriend who has been entangled, and I don't want you to be hurt by him. Mu Zhang listened to me quietly. Are you done? I nodded in a daze, not knowing what he meant. 9. He said, after saying that, I'm going to ask your leader for leave for 2 days, and then take me back to your hometown. I'll help you deal with this matter. I was stunned. I never thought that Mu Zhang would think so. Under his arrangement, I started to act involuntarily. After explaining the situation to the leader expressed his understanding and immediately gave me 2 days off. Then Mu Jing took me home overnight, and I took him back to my parents' house. When I came back late at night, my parents were surprised. After hearing me say that Gu Yixuan might come to the door at any time, my parents stubbornly said that they would not move. It's daylight, and the universe is bright. I don't believe what Gu Yixuan can do. Daughter, we are not afraid. But I know Gu Yixuan's temperament well. He can do anything. Mu Zhang came forward and said, Uncle and Aunt, whether you are afraid or not, you should take a walk with Xiaowen first. Just think of it as a trip to another city. If something happens to you, I'm afraid Xiaowen will feel guilty for a long time. A few words immediately moved my father and mother. They simply packed up and followed Mu Jing and me to the city where I worked. After getting off the plane, Mu Jing settled down and they lived in Mu Jing's idle house here. Everything is arranged in an orderly manner. When I came out of my parents' residence, it was already dawn. I never thought that I could do so many things in one night. Mu Jing walked beside me. As soon as we left the community, I took his hand. Let's get married. Mu Zhang was stunned. What did you say? I stretched out my hand to him. Marry me, would you like to? Feelings will grow wildly overnight, just like me and Mu Jing. Sometimes it will wither and die in an instant, just like me and Gu Yixuan. After I got married to Mu Zhang, I finally realized what respect and love are. That was something I never experienced when I was with Gu Yixuan. After a year of marriage, we accidentally got pregnant with a child. Mu Jing respected my opinion and asked me to decide whether to keep the child. I touched my stomach, but I felt a familiar feeling. Suddenly, 2 lines of tears flowed. It was my child who came back to me and I recognized him. 5 years later, Muling was 5 years old and very naughty. I just came out of the parent-teacher meeting because she broke the glass at school. When I got to the school gate, I only heard the sound of the car whistle. I looked over in an instant. Gu Yixuan stood in front of the car and looked at me. It suddenly pulled me back to the time that was almost sealed by me 6 years ago. I didn't intend to say hello to him. I just nodded and was ready to take the child in the car and leave. But the next second, the door of my car was opened by Gu Yixuan. He sat in the co-pilot and looked at Muling. Is this your child? I frowned and looked at him. Do you have anything to do? Gu Yixuan looked like he was the back of his hand and asked Muling. What's your name, Jiang? My daughter looked at Gu Yixuan strangely. Uncle, who are you? Gu Yixuan shook his head. You called wrong. I'm your father. He is still as disgusting as he was a few years ago. I can't help but want to vomit. Get out of here. This is my daughter. It has nothing to do with you. Gu Yixuan looked at me and smiled. Jiang Yin, it's time to call you Jiang Yin now. You have grown up and dare to change your name. Do you know how long I've been looking for you? You brought my child to this city and let her live without a father since she was a child. I haven't settled this account with you yet. 10. Gu Yixuan's logic made me stunned. Mu Ling looked at Gu Yixuan and said, Uncle, I have a father. Gu Yixuan didn't care. Your mother told you whether your father was missing or dead? I couldn't listen any longer and scolded loudly. Gu Yixuan, get out of here now. I will never allow you to humiliate me again. After Gu Yixuan got out of the car, he looked at me and smiled. Jiang Yin, let's go to Japan. Muling looked at me strangely. Mom, who was that uncle just now? I said. It's a psychopath. For several days in a row, Gu Yixuan waited at the gate of Muling's primary school. I was also getting more and more irritable. Mu Zhang keenly found something wrong with my mood. I was worried that Mu Zhang would be angry, so I didn't say it. It was Mu Ling who informed the secret. When I went to pick up the child the next day, Mu Zhang insisted on following him. I couldn't resolve him, so I had to agree. Sure enough, Gu Yixuan was already waiting at the school gate. I looked at Mu Zhang guiltily. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have hidden it from you. But he just knocked on my head. We are husband and wife. You should have told me these things early. Why bury them in your heart? After Mu Ling came out, Mu Jing went down to pick up the child. As soon as Gu Yixuan saw Mu Zhang, he suddenly became anxious. You are a human trafficker, aren't you? Why didn't your mother pick up the child? And I just sat in the car and watched. Mu Ling hugged Mu Zhang and said, Dad, let's go home. I'm hungry. Gu Yixuan was stunned and took Mu Ling's hand incredibly. What did you call this man just now? Mu Ling said, Dad. Gu Yixuan suddenly went crazy and grabbed Mu Zhang's collar. What's the relationship between you and Jiang Yin? Why does this girl call your father? Mu Zhang shook off Gu Yixuan and took out the marriage certificate from his bag. I said why Mu Zhang stayed in the place where the certificate was placed for so long in the morning. Turned out to be taking this thing. Sorry, I don't know Jiang Yin. Jiang Yin and I are a legal husband and wife. This child is the crystallization of our love after marriage. You fart. This is obviously my child. You asked Jiang Yin to come down and talk to me. Seeing that he provoked more and more people, I had to get out of the car and let Mu Zhang and Mu Ling go up. I will solve the problem. Gu Yixuan looked at me disbelievably. Jiang Yin, is what the man just said true? Did you marry him? I don't care. You can divorce me now and go back. That girl is my child, right? I didn't know until later that the one you put in your bag was a pregnancy test stick. You were pregnant before you moved away, right? That child looks like my child. I couldn't help sneering when I heard what he said. Gu Yixuan, don't you really know where our child went? In the alley behind the Pure Bee bar, you found someone to beat me, and the child was gone on the spot. You killed her with your own hands. After hearing this, Gu Yixuan stepped back 2 steps incredibly. I guess he had forgotten about it. It rang again under my reminder. I laughed cruelly. For me, this is the real revenge. It was also because I deliberately revealed my identity to Gu Yixuan. I knew that he would definitely find it, and I would also misunderstand that Mu Ling was his child. And what I want to do is to avenge the child I lost many years ago. Later, Gu Yixuan had no children in his life and died alone. And Mu Zheng and I lived a happy life.